the outlook going forward. But for now, let's do one thing. Let's get some corporate conversations going. Aurionpro Solutions is under pressure today following its Q2 earnings. The company's margin has dipped both on a YOY and on a quarter-on-quarter basis. To discuss the company's guidance and the outlook post this quarter, we have with us Mr. Ashish Rai, the Vice Chairman and Director at the company, joining in now. Mr. Rai, good afternoon. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining in today. Can you give us a sense of what your guidance is? Do you maintain that guidance that you had given earlier of revenue growth of 30 to 35% and EBITDA margins of 20 to 22%? How will H2 pan out versus H1?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me. It was a good quarter. I think guidance, there is no change. So the business is trending quite strongly. So we feel we will grow north of 30% on revenue. We'll keep EBITDA between 20 and 22 and PAT between 15 and 16. The business is trending very, very well. I think there is strong demand environment is fairly strong. H2 typically is stronger for us than H1. Right, so we'll accelerate into the second half of the year and we'll deliver the guidance.
So revenue growth 30-35%, margins 20 to 22%, and profit margins 15 to 16%. In the current quarter, though, we did see your margins decline, Ashish. Can you explain what led to that?
Yeah, so the PAT actually is expanded. PAT is at 16% plus. EBITDA, there is a slight decline in margins, but I think I've said this before. At our rate of growth, we've been growing at 34-35% for 4 years now. At the pace at which we are growing, it's hard to calibrate down to the fine point. So EBITDA will stay between 20 and 22, but from one quarter to the next, it will go up and down a little bit. And there'll always some items. So this quarter, we had in one of the subsidiaries, we had a forex loss of 4 odd crores. So I think that probably shows up a point decline. But I would not read too much into EBITDA numbers sort of dropping from one quarter to the next. The pace at which we're building product out, the pace at which we're scaling up, we will always have, EBITDA sort of varying from one quarter to the next, but we'll stay within the band.
All right. You are looking at market expansion. Currently, India is around 61% of your total pie. You have APAC at 31%, US at 7%. Once this expansion does come into place, how will this pie change? What are some of the steps that you're taking for this expansion into newer geographies?
Yeah, so great question. Look, on the banking side, the business has been growing now at 50% plus, and we've seen a very, very strong traction in terms of Middle East and Southeast Asia. We announced a number of wins. We announced a win recently in Saudi Arabia. We've got a number of wins coming in MEA and Southeast Asia. On the transit side, Americas has strong momentum. We've, of course, US, I think we've done very well. We've expanded into Central America, Latin America as well. US, I think over the next probably 4 to 6 quarters should go into double digits as a percentage. Right now, you're right, it's 7 to 8%, but it's growing slightly faster than the enterprise growth. So I think we should get into double digits pretty quickly. We are now starting to build out our expansion into Europe. So slowly over the next 4 quarters, we'll see pipeline build up that well. So Middle East and Southeast Asia already growing very, very strongly. US growing strongly. Europe is the next focus.
So can you tell us the growth rates that you are seeing in these various geographies in India, US, Middle East, or APAC as you call it? Is it possible to give us the growth rate? 30 to 35% is, on a consolidated basis.
Yeah, so look, at enterprise level, we're growing at about 33-34%. I think US is growing faster than 50%. The Southeast Asia and Middle East are probably growing faster than 50%. So I think on the banking side of the business, we'll probably, US would probably be even much faster than 50%, right? We'll probably grow the business 70-80% this year. So overall, I think the international geographies are growing, but the India growth is also very, very strong. Especially the transit payments business in India growing strong, the data center business in India growing very strong. So I think it's hard to say how the mix will change. If India continues to grow as strong as the rest of the world, will probably stay more or less in the same region. But really, I think all parts of the geographies are growing quite strongly.
So if US is 70-80%, Southeast Asia, Middle East is 50% plus, if your overall enterprise guidance is 30-35%, what is dragging your growth down? Is it India, which is growing slower than 30-35%?
Yeah. So, Reema, the banking side of the business is growing at 50% plus, right? And that is roughly 55% of our top line, right? And that will continue to grow pretty strongly. We are recalibrating parts of the other segment, which is the technology innovation group, especially on the smart cities side, which was a bet in India, which we've slowed down a bit, right? So, which is what would probably be a headwind on the overall growth number for some time, while we recalibrate that business for better economic profile and better margins, right? But even within TIG, transit payments will continue to grow strongly. Data center will continue to grow strongly. The smart cities and the government side is what we are recalibrating for margins, right? Banking will continue to grow at probably 50-60%.
And the smart cities and government, the business which you're recalibrating, once again, just tell us those businesses and how much does it contribute to your top line?
So it's about a third of the TIG business, which itself is about 45%, right? So that's the slice which I've said before we've been recalibrating, right? And overall, I think the way we operate, the way to look at it is this: we are a IP-led products and platforms player, where one has to be careful as you scale up, right? I mean, unlike a services project where revenue is a function of staffing the team, in a product business, there's a lot of interconnected parts. So we've been very careful in calibrating our growth. So various parts of the business, from time to time, we will end up, giving them a pause to recalibrate for capacity, recalibrate for product build-outs. Banking, for example, last year and the year before, we had slowed down quite a bit because we wanted to focus the capacity on building out the products. So I think we feel our sweet spot of enterprise growth is somewhere between 30 and 35%. We do not want to scale the business so fast that we take on risks when it comes to delivery reputation, all that stuff. In the product business, that's very, very important, right? So at various points in time, parts of the business will slow down, parts of the business will accelerate. So banking was slow last year and the year before. It's growing very fast this year, probably the next year, and we'll keep on pacing it. But at the enterprise level, I think one should expect 30-odd% is where the sweet spot is.
Mr. Rai, quickly, if you can tell us if your acquisition Arya.ai, that one contributed this quarter, this had around 20 crore top line. How much did it contribute, and what is the growth expected here?
Yeah, so I think the way to look at Arya.ai is a part of our bet on where enterprise AI is going, right? So there is obviously a lot of conversations around the frontier models and LLMs, etc., which have its own space. We believe as technology matures, a lot of value creation and hence a lot of value capture for vendors like us will happen on the application layer, which is where we're already very strong with the enterprise application stack we have. The goal with Arya.ai is to bring together a very mature enterprise application stack that we have together with a very mature ML capability, as well as new platforms that we're launching on Arya.ai side, right? So I think we've gone in terms of we want to really lead the world when it comes to fundamentally AI native enterprise applications as they mature over a period of time. We've seen, I think the demand for the offerings together. So it's important not to look at Arya.ai by itself. It's important to look at that together with the enterprise application stack. I think the demand is really something we've not seen before, right? So most of the successes we had, for example, in Middle East, Saudi Arabia, etc., that we announced, these are transaction banking offerings going together with the AI enablement that we offered through the Arya acquisition, right? So more and more, every single Aurionpro application, every single Aurionpro capability will go into the market with a very mature AI capability, even AI native applications, right? So the demand is really very, very serious, and I think we're capitalizing on it.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Rai, for joining in today. So that's the word coming in from Aurionpro Solutions. H2 is looking better than H1, and they maintain their FY25 guidance on the top line and margins as well. But to the big story now, consolidation continues in India's cement space with a